I was getting 9 on paper. The reality was my sleep was garbage, and it showed up my body fat, my hormones, how I felt. It was really, really bad. So sleep quality trumps, like, I think you're better off sleeping 7, 7.5 and getting really good quality compared to sleeping 8.5 or 9 and not getting enough quality. Let's talk also. So what's really interesting about longevity research and sleep is that people that sleep 6 hours or less have a shorter life. And then also people that sleep too much have a shorter life. I think it's very different mechanisms. I think people that are sleeping 6 hours or less are just not recuperating, not rejuvenating themselves. They're not, repairing their bodies on a consistent basis. So they're just going to die earlier. But the people that are sleeping too much, and I had a friend in my 20s that, was like that. And fortunately he died in his 40s from a brain tumor. Not saying the two are linked, but he was a guy that could, he was kind of trapped in a parasympathetic state. And in my opinion, people that are sleeping too much are typically very unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed in myself and other people, and you've probably seen it as well with your clients, is that as people get healthier, they tend to sleep a little bit less. Like right now, my average amount of sleep is 7 to 7.5, and I feel way, way better than I ever did on 9. And even sometimes I'll sleep 6, 6.5, and I feel way better than I did on 9.
Yep.
So definitely, as I've gotten healthier, I've noticed that I need less sleep. Just some quick comments on people that train really hard. So again, when we used to work with pro athletes, the formula that I was taught that I used was 8 hours plus 1 hour for every hour that they trained. So some pro athletes will train like twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. And typically you have to schedule naps to get that. It's very difficult to sleep like 10 hours straight.
Mm-hmm.
But, people that train very hard, I notice even myself, like if I go do a really hard squat workout or deadlift workout, I'll probably need an extra hour that night. Whereas if I'm not doing that, I'm fine. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some variables there, but it's definitely all about sleep quality. So for deep, 90 minutes is a really good target. And for REM, 2+ hours. Those are really good baselines. Some people have, again, just genetically blessed, and they might, see some crazy results. One quick comment on Oura Ring data and sleep. So Oura Rings and Fitbits and all of those devices are only about 60% accurate in terms of measuring the specific amount of deep and a specific amount of REM. And the reason is they're using secondary metrics. The only way you can get really accurate sleep data is you need electrodes on your brain.
Mm-hmm.
There is a headset called Dream, DREEM. I bought their first version when it came out, and unfortunately, they've become a research-only company. We're actually using their headset to do some sleep studies on Sleep Breakthrough. But you need electrodes. So again, the Oura Ring is estimating how much deep, how much REM based on heart rate and body temp and movement and all of those things. And it's still good. I'm not downing it. I've been a fan of Oura Ring since V1, but it's just not something that you want to get overly obsessed about on, oh man, it's only saying I got 30 minutes of deep and I got 3 hours of REM. Because, for a while I had the Dream and the Aura and I was contrasting the two, and it just wasn't accurate at assessing the specific amount of time in deep or REM. What it is accurate at is that block of time of REM plus deep seems to be accurate, but it just can't differentiate accurately between the two.
So you're talking about, if I understand this correctly, you're saying that Oura Ring and most sleep trackers like Whoop, for example, they won't necessarily get the amount of deep versus REM correct, but the total between the two is relatively accurate.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
I've talked to other people that had the Dream and the Aura, and they reported that. I've talked to neuroscientists, like across the board, it seems to be that's the consensus.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And then also something to mention, like you said, professional athletes, we often hear about athletes, getting 10, 11, 12 hours of sleep, these super high level athletes. And then some, I'll say, average or non-athletes sometimes brag about getting that much sleep, but then to your point, that's not necessarily healthy. You know, sleeping more is more often than not correlated with not non-optimal health. Correct?
Yeah, I think it's the non-optimal health that's driving them to sleep that much.
Yeah. So unless you
So
train, like work your fucking ass off, and you'll know if this is you, then if you're getting 10 plus hours of sleep, it's probably a sign that something's off.
mhm.
Cool.
Let's talk about homeostasis real quick, which is a really important concept, both for people that are sleeping too much or people that, you know, sleep 5.5 hours a night and they brag.
Mm-hmm.
So your body's always attempting to achieve homeostasis. It's basically trying to balance itself out to whatever circumstances you're putting it in. And yes, if you're constantly sleeping 5.5 hours and you're waking up and you're, you know, using coffee and stimulants to kind of wake up and, you know, function,
Yeah.
even though your functioning is at about 50% of your true potential, you basically adapted to that, and it's not a good thing. And I think the same thing is true with the people that are sleeping 10, 11, 12 hours. Like they're the people that I've known that are in that camp are basically trapped in a parasympathetic state. Kind of, again, and you can get trapped. I've been trapped in a sympathetic state, and that's how you burn out, right? You just can't downshift, and you just get worn out, and then you burn out, and then you need, you know, to basically completely reboot for a while. But the same is true on the other side. Like the people that are just too chill, they need some nootropics. Basically,
Yeah.
they need some adrenaline. They need to go work out. They need some stimulation. They need to try to shift their bodies, because in a perfect world where, you know, waking up, I think waking up and spending 20, 30 minutes in a calm brainwave state, you know, hang out with, like, I've got a baby girl now, 6 month old, love hanging out with her, not turning on the phone. I mean, you know, keep it in airplane mode, go outside, walk, meditate, whatever your rituals are. And then you basically say, okay, I'm going into beta brainwave mode. You operate in that. And then in the evening, shift down, take magnesium breakthrough, meditate, do whatever you need to do to shift your brain, your nervous system back to calm. And then you have a good night's sleeps. We all run into trouble when we're not learning how to basically navigate the road of life and shift your nervous system accordingly.
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this clip, check out the full episode on the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. Also, check the description for links to discounts on the best sleep supplements that I personally use and recommend.